The rain had been falling steadily all night, and as the sun rose timidly, the town awoke under a grey and heavy sky. But that morning, along one of the busiest intersections in the city, something strange happened, something no one could have imagined. Before we continue, however, stop for a moment. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible stories we have in store for you. Now, let's take a few steps back to better understand what was about to happen. The life of a stray dog is never easy. There are many dogs that wander the streets looking for a meal or a cuddle, but that day, in the town, there was a special dog, one of those that seemed to carry with them an aura of sweetness and wisdom. He was a stray, yes, but not like all the others. His fur was ruffled and his paws were marked by the walk, but in his eyes there was a special light, a kindness that did not go unnoticed. While people were rushing to go to work or take their children to school, he trotted through the streets with a cheerful air, almost unaware of the difficulties that life had in store for him. Every now and then, he stopped in front of a shop or a passerby, receiving in return a caress or a bite of food. He was loved by everyone, even if no one really knew him. But that day, everything changed. Attracted by an irresistible smell, the dog stopped suddenly. The scent of roasted meats and spices guided him to the door of a butcher's shop. His stomach rumbled with hunger, but he didn't approach immediately. He remained still with his muzzle upturned, breathing in that aroma that seemed to come from another world. Inside the butcher shop, a young woman named Morella was paying for 2 large steaks. She was one of those people who always seemed to be on the move, always busy. But when she came out of the shop and saw those pleading eyes, something in her changed. The dog was staring at her with such intensity that Morella couldn't ignore it. Without thinking twice, she retraced her steps and went back into the butcher shop. She asked the butcher if he had any leftovers that she couldn't sell, and with a kind smile, she received a bag full of pieces of meat. When she came out again, she bent down and handed the food to the dog. He looked at her for a moment, then delicately took a piece and walked away. Morella was perplexed. She would have thought that the dog would have thrown himself on that meal with greed, but it was not so. She saw him walk away, and for a moment she wondered where he was going with that morsel between his teeth. But she didn't think about it too much and continued with her day. The next day, while walking to work, Morella noticed the dog again. He was there, waiting for her. When he saw her, he ran towards her, wagging his tail happily. Morella smiled and couldn't help but pet him. But she had to go. Time was running out. Before leaving, however, she bought some sausages for her new 4-legged friend. Once again, he took the food and walked away without eating it right away. This time, Morella felt a strange curiosity growing inside her. Why was that dog behaving like that? Why wasn't he eating the food she gave him? The next day, Morella made a decision. She would follow the dog. She wanted to know what was happening. And so, when she saw him again, she packed a packet of dog biscuits in her bag. That morning, the dog seemed to be waiting for her more than usual. He approached, received the cookies, and, as usual, walked away. But this time, Morella followed him, keeping her distance. The dog walked with a firm step, as if he knew exactly where he was going. He crossed the street, turned into an alley, and then stopped next to a manhole. Mirella watched him, holding her breath. The dog sat down, looked down the manhole, and dropped one of the cookies. Mirella was confused. What was he doing? Was there someone down there? The dog remained there, still as if waiting for an answer, then ate his biscuit. Mirella couldn't believe her eyes. She went home with 1,000 questions in her head. The next day, however, she couldn't help but return to that street. The dog was there, as if he knew she would return. This time, when she gave him some food, he decided to lean over and look into the manhole, and what she saw made her blood run cold. There was no time to waste. Mirella ran to call the firefighters, her heart pounding in her chest. If you liked the video, it would be kind of you to leave a precious like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next exciting stories. The firefighters arrived within minutes. When Mirella explained what she had seen, their faces became serious. They immediately began to work, carefully loosening the manhole's screws. A small crowd gathered around them, drawn by the commotion. The dog, seeing the policeman, became agitated. He began to growl, to show his teeth, as if he wanted to defend something precious. Mirella tried to calm him down, speaking softly and offering him another biscuit. In the end, the dog calmed down, but did not take his eyes off the manhole. The moment that followed was full of tension. The spectators held their breath, their eyes fixed on those few centimeters of metal that separated the outside world from what was hidden beneath. Finally, with an effort, the firefighters managed to open the manhole. What emerged left everyone speechless. Out of the darkness, 5 tiny kittens appeared. One by one, they were gently lifted by the guards and carried into the light. They were frightened, wet and shivering, but alive. As soon as the last kitten was rescued, the dog broke free from Mirella's arms and ran towards them. He sniffed them, touched them with his muzzle, and then lay down next to them, as if to protect them. Mirella couldn't hold back her tears. She understood everything in an instant. The dog had found those kittens, probably during the storm, and had done everything he could to help them, to keep them safe and feed them. His heart was full of love, a love that surpassed every barrier, every difference. Mirella made a decision. She would not let those kittens go back to the streets. She would take them home with her. She would take care of them and look after them until they were strong enough to find a family. And the dog, who from that day on she called Berto, would stay with her. She couldn't separate him from the kittens she had saved. Time passed, and the kittens grew up strong and healthy. When the time came, Mirella found a home for each of them. But one, the smallest and weakest, stayed with her and Berto. They became a family, one of those strange and wonderful families that arise only from the most incredible circumstances. Animals are capable of such pure and selfless love, don't you think? What would you have done in Mirella's place? Would you have left those kittens to their fate? Or would you have welcomed them into your home? This story teaches us that sometimes heroes are not those we expect. Sometimes they are silent and gentle creatures who live among us, ready to make a difference without asking for anything in return.